Hey guys, we are back and we're going to be reading chapter 2 of the fanfiction we started last time called To Save the World. It's a crossover between BNHA and between Boku no Hero Academia and Assassination Classroom. So, let's just get right into it. Despite popular opinion, Hitoshi was going to become a hero. He just needed to survive middle school first. He had chosen Kanugigaoka not only because its prestige would help him get into UA, but also because it was a fairly good distance away from home. Oh, I forgot to say something. If you want to see the last video with the last chapter in it from the other day, then that's in the description, just in case you weren't here. Um, Despite popular opinion, Hitoshi was going to become a hero. He just needed to survive middle school first. He had chosen Kanugigaoka because it not only because its prestige would help him get into UA, but also because it was a fairly good distance away from home. This meant no one would know who he was, and he could spend his junior high days flying completely under the radar. For the first 2 years, his plan seemed to work perfectly. He kept his grades decent enough to satisfy his teachers and kept his head low among his classmates. He never used his quirk unless during private evaluations, and he didn't make any friends. Things were going great. But then Tomoya happened. Looking back, maybe it wasn't a very good idea to use his quirk on one of the five virtuosos, especially one who was also who was also the student assembly chairman. But that didn't mean he wouldn't do it all over again if he had the chance. Hitoshi had been staying after school one day to get a little extra studying in when he came across Seo openly harassing another girl, using his brick quirk to create a legitimate brick wall with his body to corner her in. It was obvious the girl was uncomfortable and scared, but that didn't seem to faze the creep at all. Hitoshi felt his natural hero instinct he had developed and nurtured all these years kick in, and he walked towards the duo calmly. It's kind of embarrassing that one of the most praised people in this school has to trap a girl with a wall to get her to talk to him, don't you think? He started plainly, scratching the back of his neck. Theo turned his head sharply and sneered. What the hell do you think you're doing here? School's over. Get out, he spat. Instantly afterward, the malice on his face vanished, and his expression matched the blank wall his body formed. No, I think you should be the one to get out, Theo. Now, leave the girl alone and go do your homework or something, okay? The very next day, he was called into the office. Theo was there telling some elaborate story about how Shinso had attacked him for no reason and made him do whatever he wanted, including his homework. No matter how much the purple haired boy tried to argue otherwise, he left the office with a notice to transfer to E class that day and the 3 day suspension, effective the following week. When Yukimura sensei asked him to introduce himself and state his dream, Hitoshi bluntly stated, My name is Shinso Hitoshi. I'm wrongfully being given a suspension starting next week, so our current time together will be brief, and I'm going to become a hero. He bowed, and his classmates echoed the standard welcome praise. A boy with a lion mane in the back muttered, Good luck with that dream. No way you're getting into some fancy hero academy when you have E class on your transcripts. Terasaka, be nice, Yukimura sensei scolded before apologizing for the boy's behavior, directing Hitoshi to his seat. Hitoshi honestly didn't care whether the boy didn't think he could achieve UA because of E class. It was better than being told it was because he was a villain. When he got back to E class, there was a little green shrubbery sitting in the desk in front of him. The boy was obviously a constant nervous mess, and Hitoshi couldn't help but feel bad for him. When he brainwashed the boy into calming down, he expected angry backlash or fear. Instead, the kid told him to get more sleep. Midoriya Izuku was a mystery for sure, but he was also the best damn person as Hitoshi had ever met. Shinso, could I ask you something? The purple haired boy opened one eye and glanced at the boy sitting next to him. It was lunchtime, but Sugino and Nagisa had chosen to train instead, and Karma had quickly dipped to do who knows what. Hmm? He hummed, readjusting his position against the tree. What's up, Jolly Green? I was just, wondering, is your quirk perhaps mind control? The green haired boy asked nervously, when Hitoshi suddenly sat, straight, both eyes open. It only seemed to make the boy more uneasy. I don't mean to come off forward, But if this is some sort of taboo topic, then I'm sorry, you don't have to answer. I've just been really curious, and you've used it on me like a couple of times, so I was just wondering what it entails exactly, and I've been wondering if somehow it's connected to Miss Yelovich has how Miss to why Miss Yelovich has no effect on you, which is pretty cool if it was. Midoriya, yes? Automatically, thin strings invisible to the rest of the world appeared on the boy, and the moment he responded, Hitoshi mentally reached out, grabbing the strings and taking control. Please calm down. And he did, like always. The boy stared blankly like everyone did when he brainwashed them. Once he was sure the boy was done panicking, he released and the color and emotion returned to the boy. Midoriya gazed at him expectantly. Sorry, sorry about, sorry about that, Hitoshi apologized meekly. There's really no need to panic, though. Like you said, I've used my quirk on you before, so it's only fair you know what it is. Midoriya visibly relaxed. Oh, okay. The boy's hand twitched, and Hitoshi smirked. You can put it in your notebook if you want. Midoriya laughed awkwardly and eagerly pulled out one of his famous notebooks. Hitoshi noticed that this one was new, titled differently. Quirk analysis to stop Koro Sensei was scribbled on the front, along with the number 1. The brainwasher smirked and waited until he was sure the boy was ready. Well, formally, it's called brainwashing. It allows me to control the mind of anyone. They just have to verbally respond to me first. Midoriya hummed, continuously writing. So I take it you can decide when you activate your quirk? Hitoshi nodded. Is there any way for the person to break free of your hold? The purple haired boy paused. Not that I currently know of, but I wouldn't be surprised if there was, I guess. The green haired boy chewed on the end of his pencil. It seems, compared to Miss Yelovich's honeypot trap, that your mind control is more like a slice, while hers is like a shove. With hers, you feel urges to do what she wants, but yours is absolute. Maybe that's why she has no effect on you. Your mind control is stronger because of your mind is stronger because of your superior mind control quirk. Just like two people with strength based quirk or speed. One is destined to be faster or stronger, so that's why they would win a fight. I wonder if this means this is standard among all mind control quirks. The boy muttered insistently, and Hitoshi for once let him, a wry smirk on his lips. In the past, everyone reacted out of fear to his quirk, calling him a monster or a villain, or stopped talking to him altogether. Leave it to Midoriya Izuku to be fascinated by it. Surprisingly, the first one to use their quirk to assassinate Koro Sensei wasn't Sugino, Okino, Isogai, or Terasaka, who had been the volunteers in their first training class the day before. It actually ended up being the ever silent Okuda. The pigtailed girl walked right up to the teacher during the chemistry, holding 3 different vials, and plainly asked him to drink the poisons she'd created. My quirk is called Chemical Breakdown. It lets me see things on an elemental level, though it's kind of hard sometimes to tell apart the atoms just by looking at them. I made these poisons based on what I believe makes up anti-sensei matter, and well, as a common poisons. Would you mind drinking them? To everyone's surprise, Koro-sensei actually drank them. Unsurprisingly, they had no real effect. They just changed his appearance, giving him horns or wings. Koro-sensei praised the girl nonetheless. Excellent attempt, Okuda, though it seems your guesses were a little off. The delivery could also have been a little sneakier. Most people wouldn't drink something you say is poison. But that's besides the point. I'm so proud of you for embracing your quirk and trying to kill me with it! Hopefully, this will inspire your classmates to do the same, the tentacle man said, patting the girl on the head. I can't wait for all I can't wait for all of you to try and kill me using your amazing quirks. Remember, I expect everyone to do it before finals. In all honesty, Hitoshi shouldn't be too surprised when he ran into Seo again after the school-wide assembly. Fate was always annoying like that. He and Midoriya were walking together, about to head back up the mountain, when they were suddenly cornered by Big-Nosed Boy with his fellow virtuosos. If Hitoshi had any sense of self-preservation, he might have been intimidated. Instead, he smirked at the boy patronizingly. What's this, Seo? You're so scared of me you had to bring all your little buddies as backup? Seo sneered. It would do you some good to try. It would do you some good to learn your place, villainous freak. You're an E class now. You might as well drop out and join a group of criminals while you still can. You know, you still talk big game for a guy who probably can't get a baby to look at you without crying. Koyama, a nasty-looking boy with long hair and glasses, stepped forward menacingly, baring his crooked teeth. You better back Hmm. You better back down, freak, or we'll show you what we do to those who step out of line, he spat, his long hair beginning to grow more and move unnaturally. And Hitoshi realized it was actually made of snakes. The brainwasher was about to snark back when Midoriya, the clueless do-gooder he was, stepped forward. Hey, hey, leave us alone. Just let us get back to our class and then we'll be out of your hair, he said, or we'll be out of your hair, he said, eyeing the snakes uncomfortably. Hitoshi put a hand on the green haired boy's shoulder, willing him to step down. His heart actually stuttered when he noticed the strawberry blonde boy stepping forward, his eyes gleaming ominously. And who might you be? Asano Gakushu asked. I don't think I remember seeing you before. Midoriya took a step back, his eyes wide. Before Hitoshi could warn him to get away, Asano reached out and brushed his fingers against the smaller boy's arm. Oh, yes, I know now, Asano said, his eyes glowing an unnatural silver. I actually remember my father talking about you one day. You're Midoriya Izuku, the quirkless transfer that was immediately sent to E class. Midoriya went frighteningly still as Asano stared triumphantly at the E class duo. Hitoshi felt his brain stutter for a second. Quirkless? Then, with the speed only achievable when training to kill Core Sensei, Midoriya wrenched his shoulder free from Hitoshi and took off, pushing the group of bullies that were laughing cruelly. It's sad, really. He was truly born to be a failure, Asano commented. Hitoshi gritted his teeth. Shut up, he growled, glaring at the five bullies. Their leader glanced back apathetically. You should know better than to use your quirk on us, Shinzo. I doubt the administration is going to be so forgiving for a second incident, he mocked, and then the virtuosos laughed alongside him. They went quiet, however, when they noticed the purple haired boy was smiling back. That's funny, it really is, he said, laughing humorously, because I don't need my quirk to make you submit. Sending them one last smirk, he pushed through the speechless bullies and made his way after his friend. He found Midori on a tree. The little piece of shrubbery was probably trying to blend in with the leaves. I love his adorable descriptions of I love Hitoshi's adorable descriptions of Midoriya, just like green shrubbery, broccoli. Hitoshi climbed up and wordlessly took a seat on the branch next to the smaller boy. They didn't say anything for a while. Hitoshi had pulled out his phone and messed around with it so, while Midoriya gazed at the sky, silently brooding. For once, the brainwasher missed his friend's mumbling. I wasn't trying to lie to you, Midoriya said suddenly. Hitoshi stopped scrolling and glanced up. The boy had now resorted to staring at the ground, a light blush on his cheeks. I wasn't trying to lie to anyone. Really, it just, well, no one asked, and I thought maybe I could pretend to fit in for once. I didn't have to be the pitied, quirkless boy everyone treated like glass, or like I had some disease. Hitoshi said nothing, permitting his friend to let it all out. Midoriya wiped away his tears as they started to form. Who was I kidding, though? It's not something I could ever really keep a secret. You were bound to find out, if not by that jerk, then during quirk training. I should have just accepted it by now. I'm never going to be anything but a quirkless loser. My dream of becoming a hero is a joke. The brainwasher sighed. So what? You're in E class, buddy. We're all a bunch of losers. You really think being quirkless will make anyone think less of you? He stated. Midoriya turned to him slowly, his eyes wide. I mean, everyone knows you're one of the best in analysis in the whole class, quirk or no quirk. If anyone is going to be able to devise a plan to take Koro Sensei out, it'll be you and Nagisa. The smaller boy sniffled, tears streaming freely, and Hitoshi felt his gaze soften. You're more than just quirkless to us, Midoriya, and you're going to become a hero. You and me, we're going to prove them all wrong. Go to UA together and become the greatest heroes of all time. You really think so? Hitoshi scoffed. I know so, crybaby. If anyone tries to give you crap, I'll make them run laps around the school, barking like a dog. The green-haired boy laughed shakily, wiping his tears. Thanks, Shinso. No problem, Dolly Green, he replied, throwing an arm around his friend's shoulder. Now can we get down from here? I'm not really the biggest fan of heights. Midoriya chose to not immediately tell his classmates about his quirklessness, and Hitoshi respected the boy's decision. After being outed to his closest friend by Asano with his omniscience-based quirk, it was understandable that he wanted to tell his classmates 100% on his own terms. With Koro-sensei's threat of leaving if they all didn't place the top 50 on midterms hanging in the air, Karasuma was understandably high-strung during the next quirk training. Instead of having people volunteer to present their quirks, he wanted them to come up with a class-wide assassination attempt, strategically planned where 8 people used their quirk in surprised manners, while the others tricked Kuro-sensei into thinking it was a normal class effort attempt. It's not confirmed whether he will hold true to his word or not. That's Karasuma's voice. I can't remember it. I think I knew in the last video. I can't remember it. It's not confirmed whether he will hold true to his word or not, but we must be prepared in case this is the last week we have to kill him. I want this to be the best plan we have ever come up with. No holding back. Karasumo explained before sending them off to start strategizing. All right, let's do this, guys, Isogai said, kneeling over a large stretch pad as they set out to brainstorm. Data duo, do you have any ideas off the top of your head? Midoriya and Nagisa glanced uneasily at each other. Well, it's kind Hmm. Well, it's kind of hard considering we only know a handful of everyone's quirk, the blue haired boy stated. Does anyone have a quirk they feel could be super useful and they would like to share? Everyone glanced around uncomfortably before Kimura finally raised his hand. My quirk is called Sticky Feet. Basically, my feet have natural gravity adhesion, so it's practically impossible for me to trip. I could even run on vertical surfaces for a few seconds. I could attack Koro Sensei from different angles that way. Nagisa nodded. Anyone else? Hitoshi could feel Midoriya's eyes burning into his skin, but he kept his face stoic. He knew his quirk could be incredibly useful, but he also ran the risk of becoming useless once the person figured it out. He likely would only have one real chance with Koro Sensei, and there was no way he was going to mess it up. His attempt had to be perfect, and would take a lot more preparation than this. My quirk snapshot allows me to freeze motion of everyone in a 30-meter ratio for 1 second, Okajima said. His classmates couldn't help but gape. And you haven't used it yet? They shouted incredulously. Fua shook her head wildly. Okay, back up. You're saying you have the ability to keep Koro-sensei from moving, and you didn't feel the need to share this with us. What the hell is wrong with you? The boy held his hands up submissively as his irritated assassin classmates slowly began to close in. Hey, it's only for 1 second, and besides, all of you guys would be frozen too. I'd have to be the one to stab him, and I'm not exactly the fastest person in the world. Why not shoot him then? A bullet would move more than fast enough, commented Hayami. Okajima shook his head sorrowfully. Doesn't work that way. The moment the bullet leaves the chamber and I'm technically no longer touching it, then it freezes like everything else. I also have to be careful with how much I use it because it makes me extremely tired very quickly. I bet you would be able to make it I bet you'd be able to make it stronger though, Midoriya said encouragingly. I've heard that sometimes a quirk can be just like a muscle, and you just need to exercise it to make it strong. Now, it's not always guaranteed your limitations will change much, but for you, adding half a second could be the difference between failure and success. Okajima brightened under the praise. Maehara even gave the boy an encouraging pat on the back. Nagisa smiled lightly. Well, adding the in 4 from last class and you two, we still need 2 more volunteers. Anyone? Hey, I didn't say nothing about helping you posers out, Terasaka suddenly snapped. Isogai frowned, exasperated. Now is not the time, Terasaka. This might be our last chance, and we're going to need all the manpower we can get. The lion boy scoffed. Then find someone else. It's not my fault you losers are too weak to do it on your own. My gang and I are going to take the octopus out on our own, and that's final. You guys can figure this out without us. The boy stomped away, his 3 friends trailing after him wordlessly. Karma sighed dramatically. Well, that's one way to lift everyone's spirits. Oh, that's so not Karma's voice, but Karma's voice is so hard. Well, that's one way to lift everyone's spirits, the boy commented unhelpfully. Hitoshi elbowed his fiery friend without in the ribs half-heartedly. Hey Karma, what's your quirk? Oh, that's not Hitoshi. Hey Karma, what about your quirk? I bet it's gotta be pretty powerful, Sugaya said. Much of the class murmured in agreement. Yeah, I'm kind of surprised you haven't used it yet, Yada added. Karma tilted his head to the side, looking annoyingly innocent. Hmm? What do you mean? I've been using it since the beginning, the boy drawled, earning him only earning him multiple shouts of disbelief. Hitoshi arched an eyebrow skeptically. Even Karma's best friend Nagisa looked shocked. What are you talking about, Nagisa? You haven't done anything different from how you normally are, the blue-haired boy argued. The redhead obviously faked his surprise. Oh, you mean you haven't noticed? What about you, Midoriya? Don't tell me even you missed my quirk too. Uh, um, the green-haired boy stuttered, obviously shocked to be suddenly put on the spot. Hitoshi could practically see the girl gears spinning in the boy's head. Well, you could always be the only one to come close. You've always been the only one to come close to competing with Core Sensei's intelligence, and if you've been using it since the beginning without anyone visibly noticing it, then it's probably some mind-enhancing quirk. Not like the quirk that lets you know everything. Not like the kind that lets you know anything and everything instantly, but more like the one that lets you figure stuff out really quickly. It would explain how you're so good at explaining people's weaknesses, and how you're able to understand the new material almost instantly. My best guess figures it's some kind of innate problem solving quirk. Midori practically squeaked the last part, and Hitoshi couldn't help but stare. Was this little piece of shrubbery Positivity's quirkless? Because if he really was naturally that analytical, then that was just plain freaky. Karma smirked triumphantly. You almost hit the nail right on the head. Good job, Midoriya, he complimented, almost sincerely. It's formally called innate capability, and it allows for me to be able to instantly understand any complex system I see, even if I have no background knowledge or past experience with it. Silence. That wasn't as that wasn't as cool as I thought it was going to be, Hitoshi said bluntly. Karma frowned, though it was obvious the devilish boy didn't actually care. Aw, don't hate on mental quirks, Shinso. You should hold yourself to a higher esteem anyway, he said, tilting his head innocently, though his eyes were challenging and mischievous. Hitoshi tensed under those calculating eyes, realizing what his friend was alluding to. What a creepy know-it-all. Still, kind of terrifying and very fitting nonetheless, Katoka added, pointedly ignoring the boy's antics. We can use karma as the brain of this operation, I guess, but we still need two more people. Well, I can mimic animal sounds and sometimes communicate with them, although my language skills are very poor, and I'm sure I could get a group of woodland creatures to attack Core Sensei with us, Kurohashi offered. The female representative nodded. Okay, one more. Surprisingly, Nagisa raised his hand. I'm not sure how much help I can be at assassination, yet my quirk should be able to catch Core Sensei off guard. Sogai perked an eyebrow. How so, Nagisa? My quirk is called misdirection. It's basically just made me easily forgettable my entire life. I am I'm still not entirely confident in how it functions, but it seems I can project an aura so those surrounding the area, find me less noticeable. Midoriya nodded. Stealth is the biggest factor for assassination. Core Sensei's super enhanced senses makes it hard for people to sneak up on him. But you can get close enough to enact your misdirection. Without him noticing, you can sneak up on him and attack. While he'd probably be fast enough to react and get away, it'll definitely throw him off. We should probably immediately follow a snapshot quirk, and even if it fails, having two shocking attacks like that will throw him off for the rest of the assassination attempt, Kimura added. And just like that, they all started putting their heads together to plan the perfect assassination attempt on their teacher. It failed miserably, but Core Sensei was proud nonetheless. Wonderful attempt, students. You had me worried there for a moment. Well, one whole second to be exact, he said, patting an exhausted Okajima on the head. I couldn't help but notice, however, that except for Nagisa and Karma, your classmates with the flashiest or most offensive quirks were the only ones to try. I know the world of heroes has created an ideal that the best combat quirks need to be offensive or flashy, but assassination is a whole other ballpark. You see, the best assassins are sneaky. They don't have blatantly obvious quirks because those will likely give them away too soon. That's why, if you notice that Nagisa was being the closest to successful thanks to his invisibility type quirk, you need to start understanding the strength in the subtle things if you ever want to be able to kill me. Hitoshi exchanged a look with Midoriya. Subtle things, huh? The midterm tests, despite all of Core Sensei's effort to review them, were blatantly rigged, and barely anyone placed anywhere near the top 50. Toshi barely made it out with a rank of 72 with 361 points. Midoriya, despite being a freaking genius, was still only 31. They were all nervous that Core Sensei was going to keep true to his word, but then Karma came through for them, shying a few points away from a perfect score. So they tried to throw so they tried to throw a few stupid questions at us. I used my quirk to my advantage, just like you said, and was able to figure them out in seconds, he drawled. Even if we didn't make it to the top 50, what does it matter? You taught me all that I needed to know, and that's all that really matters in my opinion. Don't use this as an excuse to run away like the big scaredy cat you are. It's unflattering, really. Hitoshi, understanding where Karma was going, smirked haughtily and scratched the back of his neck. If you're really that scared, we'll kill you. Just say so, Teach. A vein bulged on their teacher's head, but by then the rest of the class had picked up on the teasing and was mocking their sensei playfully. And just like that, the dumb test results no longer mattered, and no one was going anywhere because in the end, there was really no better place than E class. Do you think if you brainwashed Koro Sensei and told him to die or kill himself that it would work? Midoriya asked out of the blue one day. Itoshi almost choked on coffee. Well, he muttered, clearing his throat. I've actually been wondering about this a lot, since he's arrived, actually. It's just that I've obviously never used my quirk like that before, and I'm worried if I try it and it fails, I'll miss my one chance to kill him. The green haired boy nodded. Makes sense. It'd be pretty cool if it did work, though. Yeah, it would, wouldn't it? Following midterms, the whole school was scheduled on a class trip to Musutafu, one a home of amazing heroes like All Might and Endeavor, and where UA High School was located. He and Midoriya were a little stoked to go, to say the least. Though, of course, in typical E-class fashion, it was being turned into a sightseeing assassination attempt. Karasuma had given them instructions to lure Koro-sensei to specific sites while touring to where to where professional sharpshooters would be in range. They hoped the distractions of the city would give them an edge. They also encouraged them to use their quirks to keep Core-sensei cautious of the students instead of possible threats. Wait, Hitoshi interrupted. Isn't it illegal for you to use your quirk in public? Because I don't know about you guys, but this city is literally crawling with heroes, and the Musatafu police holding cell isn't exactly a sight I was looking forward to seeing. Karasuma pursed his lips, but pulled out a stack of cards. That's already been taken care of, he said, holding them up. They appear to be some kind of ID with everyone's name and face. Technically, you are all employed freelancing agents for the government, which means you're entitled to government quirk immunity. This allows you to use your quirks in public if so needed. I've held on to them out of fear some of what some of you would do with them. He looks pointedly at Karma and the delinquent group, who all just grinned wickedly. What? I thought we proved my quirk was relatively harmless. Karma defended sarcastically. Nagisa stared at his best friend blankly. Any quirk would be dangerous so long as it's you, Karma. They broke into groups of 6 or 7. Their group consisted of himself, Midoriya, Nagisa, Sugino, Karma, Okuda, and a girl Sugino enlisted because he obviously had a crush on her, Kanzaki Yukiko. Hitoshi hadn't really interacted with her, but she seemed very sweet and helpful, if not a little shy. She was also an excellent planner and took charge in organizing their entire trip into a notebook, so they wouldn't have to lug around the dictionary-sized tour guides Koro Sensei made them. She was even she was even able to very calmly deal with an overexcited Midoriya who wanted to visit every single site where All Might took out a villain. Hey Midoriya, weren't you originally from Mustafi before you transferred here? Asked Nagisa when they were making a list of places to visit. Have you not already seen all of this already? The green haired boy scratched his head sheepishly. No, not really. My mom and I kind of lived on the poorer outskirts of the city, not really all that close to the action. I was occasionally able to see some rookie heroes and sidekicks that got booted to the less exciting jobs, but never anyone of significance. My mom was always so busy with work that there was never any time to go sightseeing in our own city. I guess it's kind of sad to think that I lived so close to my dream school my whole life and never saw it, he said, and Hitoshi nodded sympathetically. But it's okay, the boy nodded, perking up considerably, because now I get to do it all with some of my very best friends. Now make sure you add the place where All Might defeated Toxic Chainsaw. He and Midoriya were just preparing to enter the bullet train when A class passed them, getting to ride first class VIP. He could feel the elite class collectively sneering on them, and the pair tried to push their way through so they could rejoin the rest of E class on the coach, where a literal brick wall formed in front of them. Oh, looky here, it's Villain and Quirkless, the fearful duo of three, snickered Koyama. Where do you two think you Where do you two think you're going in such a hurry? You wouldn't possibly be running away, hmm? Theo jeered as the five virtuosos appeared to and loomed over them. Midoriya shrunk back slightly, but Hitoshi refused to be bothered and staring blankly. Aren't you guys supposed to be the smartest people in the school? Where do you think we're heading? He mocked. Now please move so we can get on the train. Not waiting for a response, he grabbed Midoriya's wrist and pushed his way past the bullies, pointedly making an effort not to touch Asano. Midoriya wasn't so lucky, as the strawberry blonde purposely jetted out his shoulder to harshly bump into the smaller boy. He probably would have fallen flat on his face if Hitoshi wasn't already holding on to him. The Machiavellian boy peered down at Midoriya. You've got to be joking. You actually believe someone like you could be a hero? The other virtuosos burst out laughing, saying that a quirkless loser would be lucky to even meet a hero before much worse could be said. Hitoshi dragged his friend away as swiftly as possible, not stopping until their class was in view. It wasn't enough, though. The damage had already clearly been done, as tears began to form in Midoriya's eyes. The purple-haired boy scowled and led the other boy on the train to a lone compartment, a little bit away from where the rest of the class was sitting. Those better be tears of joy of how, oh, those better be tears of joy because of how ecstatic you are to go visit UA, Hitoshi stated. The green-haired boy snorted but didn't respond. The brainwasher sighed. Come on, Jolly Green. We already established this. You and I are going to become heroes together and prove everyone wrong, remember? Hell, we're going to the city of heroes. You can't be all mopey and depressed when touring the town that we'll soon be famous in. That at least got his friend to smile. Hitoshi smiled back and ruffled his hair. That's the spirit, he said. Just remember, you're training to become an ass kicking assassin. If you focus hard and really throw yourself into training, I bet not even All Might could touch you. That dude couldn't even stop the villain we're tasked with killing. So you already one up him that way. Midoriya snickered and pushed him lightly. You need to focus on combat training too, then, Shinzo. I mean, you said it yourself. Someone figures out how your quirk works, and you're as useless as me. You little. Hitoshi growled, the vein on his forehead pulsing. Fine, you little brat. I'll train with you, and whoever is the best fighter at the end of the year gets to design the other's hero costume. Oh, you're so on, Midoriya replied, smirking as they shook hands to finalize their bet. The sound of a nose being blown broke their competitive tension immediately, however. So sweet! Two of my students making a bet on who will become the superior assassin and later hero. I'm so proud! Koro sensei peering through their compartment window as the octopus held on to the speeding train from the outside. Two friends blinked slowly. What the hell, Koro sensei? They arrived at Musutafu without any more major incidents, though Kanzaki did lose her notebook at some point, which devastated the girl terribly. They had a they had to travel going off memory at what they planned, making it a real blessing they had Karma and Midori in their group. As they walked around discussing the best way to incorporate the tourist attractions into killing Koro sensei, Sugino sighed loudly. Not that an assassination vacation isn't fun and all, but I was kind of hoping to use the whole trip to get away from shooting and stabbing, he commented. I mean, what does Muzutafu have to do with assassination, anyways? Well, Nagisa answered, I guess it doesn't have to do with much with assassination, but it's one of the most famous hero villain cities in the world. And if you think about it, taking out Koro Sensei is actually taking out the world's number one villain. Sugino blinked. Huh, I guess you're right. After visiting a few more sites, they decided to put their assassination plan in action. Midoriya led them to a back alley in the outskirts of the city, completely secluded and perfect for assassination. This isn't all that this isn't all that far away from where my old apartment was, the green-haired boy explained. That's the only reason I know about it. They began to plan where they would hide an attack from where they would hide an attack when they heard footsteps approaching. What the hell, Deku? Oh, he sounds just like Terasaka, but whatever, they're like the same person anyway. A poofy blonde-haired boy asked, and he too was wearing a middle school uniform, likely local, and he was staring murderously at Midoriya. What the crap are you doing here, Deku? I thought you finally moved away for good, the boy spat. Hitoshi realized this must have been one of Midoriya's old classmates, and judging by how badly the small boy was shaking, they didn't seem to particularly get along. Oh, hey, Kachan, it's, good to see you again, the quirkless boy stuttered. Poofy bared his teeth and practically snarled. Hitoshi stepped in front of his friend protectively. We're just here on a school trip. Who the hell are you? he said. Poofy zeroed in on him and looked as unimpressed as Hitoshi felt. At least the feeling was mutual. What are you, some shitty eggplant guardian angel? The blonde spat, skipping over the question. Just get out of the fucking way. This doesn't concern you. That made everyone else in their group even more defensive, and they all moved protectively around the green-haired boy. Don't take this the wrong way, but we really don't have time to deal with playground bullies, Karma stated bluntly. It's best you just get out of here before we make you regret it. Poofy looked infuriated at the threat. You think I'm fucking scared of you? You're all just a bunch of rich bitches. I could take you on any day. Karma scoffed. Well, I did warn you, he hummed, lashing out suddenly and smacking Poofy in the face with the palm of his hand, sending the other boy to the floor. The blonde was able to react surprisingly quickly for a street rat, rolling backwards and onto his feet, balled his fist at the conniving redhead. Try that again, bastard! I dare you! He yelled. Karma smirked, happy to oblige. Karma, don't! Okuda and Midoriya shouted at the exact same time, but it was too late. Karma approached the boy again, kicking his leg out to attack when an explosion went off, seemingly out of nowhere. The redhead flew backwards, landing on the ground hard. Nagisa and Kanzaki ran to the boy's side to check on him and help him to his feet. I thought I noticed something odd about his chemical makeup, Okuda said. I was just seeing things wrong, but it looks like the sweat on his palms is made out of nitroglycerin. Midoriya nodded. It's his quirk. It lets him create explosions, and it's extremely dangerous. Please, Karma scoffed as he wiped blood away from his chin. Nothing is more dangerous than us. Hitoshi blinked, unsure what was going through the devilish boy's mind, when suddenly he was tossed a balled up piece of paper at Sugino. Make bullets, energy boy, he said. Sugino caught it cautiously before grinning as he realized what Karma meant. Is that a fucking piece of paper? What kind of weapon? Poofy didn't get to finish his sentence before a ball hit him in the stomach at lightning speed, knocking him into a trash can. The boy let off another explosion, making trash fly everywhere. Kachan, please stop! Midoriya cried, running up to the boy and grabbing his arm to keep him from punching Sugino. Poofy growled and knocked the green-haired boy to the floor. Piss off, Deku! He shouted, letting off another explosion. Midoriya cried out and somersaulted away, his uniform fringed and his arm cut, bleeding. Hitoshi sprinted to his side, studying the injured boy. He looked dazed and battered, but nothing too concerning. Hitoshi still couldn't help but growl as he turned to the blonde murderously. You're gonna pay for that, Poofy, he said darkly. The boy let off another small explosion and bared his teeth threateningly. What'd you say, eggplant? The boy started, but never got to finish. Hitoshi reached out for the imaginary strings the moment they appeared. He gave them an experimental mental pull to make sure he really had the boy completely under his control. My, what a oh, that's not the right one. My, what a ruckus, a foreign boy drawled. Before Hitoshi could give any order, he spun around to see a large green slime man at the end of the alley. Kanzaki was suspended into the air and being pulled into the slime monster's body. You should really be cognizant of your friends when you're fighting. You never know when an enemy may come. Hitoshi felt the control of the boy loosen, and Poofy easily pulled away. Thankfully, he was more preoccupied with the new threat and didn't try to continue their fight. Kanzaki! Okuda tried, and Sugino frantically threw a nearby rock, and it sped like a bullet and embedded itself into the villain. However, the slime monster didn't seem phased in the slightest. What the? Hitoshi muttered, but then was suddenly tackled to the ground by Midoriya. He looked up and saw the sludge villain had shot at his and Poofy's direction, and he was now standing directly above them. The blond boy stumbled back instinctively and let off an explosion, but not even that had any effect. It did make the villain zero in on him, his nasty large eye staring at the boy hungrily. When I snatched the planner off the girl on the train, hoping to trap her alone, I never expected falling her to lead to such a jackpot of quirks, he hummed. I think I'll take you instead. In one swift movement, the villain released Kanzaki and swallowed Poofy up, trapping the boy and squeezing into his body instead. Okuda and Nagisa raced to Kanzaki's side, helping her stand as she hacked and struggled to breathe again. Come on, let's get out of here, Sugino said, taking off for the alley exit. The others began to follow, Nagisa and Okuda each supporting Kanzaki and helping her walk. Hitoshi grabbed Midoriya's arm and pulled encouragingly, trying to stop the staring at Poofy and the villain. We gotta go, Midoriya," he said, but the boy wouldn't budge. He turned his head slowly, eyes watering. We can't just let him die, Shinso. We've got to help him," he cried. Poofy let out a string of explosions as he tried to break free, and Hitoshi flinched. Was it not the same jerk that had scared Midoriya shitless? Why would he want to risk his life to save him? He thought that last bit over a bit, and realized, oh yeah, this is Midoriya. That's why. He also knew the boy was correct, and that they couldn't just let Poofy die, but that didn't make Hitoshi any less irritated. He sighed and pulled out his anti-sensei gun. "It's really annoying when you're right. Just thought you should know," he said sarcastically, earning him a shaky smile he was going for. Rolling his eyes, the brainwasher pointed the gun and fired into the sludge villain. Unsurprisingly, it didn't do any damage, but it did get the monster's attention. He lashed out, sending a mixture of sludge and fire at the duo, which they expertly dodged. "What are you guys doing? We have to go!" Okuda shouted, as Midoriya took a stab at the villain while it was focused on Hitoshi. The green-haired boy flipped backward to avoid retaliation, and Hitoshi couldn't help but pause. When did Jolly Green learn to do that? We're being heroes," Midoriya answered determinedly, making the rest of the group stop running. Karma snorted, pulling out his own knife. "Well, we can't just let you have all the fun then," he said, charging at the sludge villain. Sugino joined in, throwing various objects at top speed. They were mainly just trying to act as distractions to keep the villain disoriented until they came up with a plan to stop him, but they were losing energy quickly. Sugino's throws were getting slower and slower, reverting to normal human pitching speed. Hitoshi was starting to regret all the times he gave half hour during cardio. We could really use a plan right now, Blue's Clues. Hitoshi shouted back at Nagisa, who was hiding behind a trash can with the girls as they thumbed through Kora Sensei's emergency trip guide. "We're trying. Sensei made this thing made this thing way too thorough. Who needs to know how to cheer themselves up after realizing Midnight's merchandise is only available for purchase by those 18 and up?" Nagisa shouted back. Hitoshi wasn't paying enough attention to fight and got blown back by an explosion. "Please just hurry," he yelped, struggling to stand up again. "Wait, I got it. What do you do when a nearby civilian gets attacked by a dangerous villain in a secluded part of Musutafu? That's eerily exact," the boy commented. Hitoshi grunted as he ducked so Karma could propel himself into the air and fire his gun midair. That's great, Nagisa. Could you please read it?" Midoriya pleaded, so he repeated as he rolled out of the way of flames. "Step 1. Blow this custom created Koro whistle," Nagisa said, pulling out a tiny wooden whistle. He passed it to Okuda, who tried to blow in it, but no sound came out. Guys, I think it's broken," she cried. "Step 2. Notify the authorities in the flashiest way possible," the blue-haired boy read. Seconds later, the largest explosion yet went off, throwing everyone backwards. Toshi groaned. "I think that's pretty damn flashy." Kanzaki stood up shakily and ran to her bag. "Just to be safe," she said, and pulled out. "Was that a video game?" "What the heck, Kanzaki? Not the time!" Sugino shouted, but the girl ignored him. She turned the game on and covered the screen with her palm. The entire device began to glow, and the light just kept growing until a life-sized All Might was formed, floating above the rooftops. "All Might?" Midoriya squeaked excitedly, right before a glob of sludge hit him in the face. "Not really. It's my quirk," Kanzaki explained. "It's called Gamer Zone. It lets me materialize video game characters from any game I touch into the real world. Unfortunately, they are just holograms and can't actually do any damage, but it can be pretty eye-catching at times." Oh, and oh boy, was it. If the sight of All Might above an explosion didn't bring a crowd of people, nothing would. Guys, I think something's up with the explosive dude," Sugino said tentatively, and Hitoshi looked and saw Poofy appeared to be convulsing, and then he realized they were about to watch the boy suffocate to death. "Kachan!" Midoriya screeched, running wildly at the villain. "Jolly Green!" Hitoshi shouted, while at the same time Karma said, "Midoriya, go for the eyes!" Midoriya, seemingly having lost all of his weapons after getting tossed around so much, threw the one last thing he had, his book bag. The thing threw wildly, opening midair and letting items go AWOL. A giant tour book Koro Sensei made them shot forward and struck two, nailing the sludge villain in the eye. Those stupid books were turning out to be surprisingly useful. Itoshi made a mental note to thank Koro Sensei later, assuming they all made it out alive, of course. The monster screeched in pain and was it was enough of a distraction for Midoriya to reach out and pull at Poofy, freeing his head so he could breathe. Deku? What the hell? The blonde boy gasped. I've got him! Someone hit the monster again! Yelled Midoriya. Karma didn't hesitate, firing directly at the villain's eyes. The monster cried out again, and Poofy inched free just a little bit more. It's not strong enough. We need to hit him harder, Nagisa observed. Sugino, do you think you can do it? The black-haired boy just looked uncertain, but pulled a baseball out of his bag nonetheless. He wound it up and building up potential energy in his body, and chucked the energized ball at the villain's eyes. It freed Poofy's arm completely, but the rest of his body was still stuck. Damn it! I used up too much energy earlier. Sugino apologized. Nagisa, what's step 3? Okuda questioned. Nagisa, what's step 3? Okuda questioned desperately. The boy looked up from the book, blatantly distraught. Step 3, don't die. What kind of advice is that? Midoriya screeched, tears falling like a waterfall. The green-haired boy had now resorted to uselessly slamming his fists against the sludge villain. Just when Hitoshi was sure they were all screwed, a large yellow blur shot out, slamming into the sludge villain, and there was a large explosion of a muddy sludge and fire. And when the dust cleared, Koro-sensei was standing there triumphantly. In one tentacle he held the grasping Poofy, in the other was a sludge villain stuffed into an empty soda bottle. Never fear, Coromite is here, he said, morphing his head to mimic the famous hero's iconic bunny ears and features. The students stared blankly. Please never do that again, Hitoshi stated. The teacher deflated visibly. You guys are no fun, he grumbled, but nonetheless, excellent job handling the villain attack. I couldn't help but notice that you followed my manual to a T. The custom whistle blows at a frequency only my ears are capable of hearing, and that all my hologram was very realistic, Kanzaki. Of course, not as convincing as my super cool All Might disguise. He turned back into the creature of the famous hero, and Hitoshi couldn't help but fire his gun at his teacher. Koro-sensei pouted and whined. Party pooper! Before bantering could continue, Poofy came to, shaking his head and staring blatantly at the octopus held him up. What's going on? Who the fuck are you? The boy shouted, trying to scramble out of the creature's grasp. Koro-sensei sweat dropped. What do you mean? I'm All Might, clearly. The octopus said in a pitiful impersonation of the hero's voice. Poofy growled and let off an explosion, making Koro-sensei drop him. Like hell you are, you tentacle freak! He spat, backing up against the wall. You're the dude who blew up the fucking moon, aren't you? And you bastards are what? Poor excuses for villain extras? What the fuck, Deku? He glared at them all accusingly. Hitoshi and everyone else visibly sweat dropped. So much for a state-protected secret, Nagisa mumbled. Karma scoffed and stepped forward. Whether we are or we aren't, doesn't matter. It's keeping you quiet that does, he said, cracking his knuckles. Luckily for you, I happen to be very experienced at keeping witnesses silent. Poofy bared his teeth, looking ready to fight again, and the sound of police sirens approaching made everyone freeze. Crap, Sugino said. We gotta get out of here, Koro-sensei. We can't just leave Poofy. We can't just leave Poofy, though. He'll tell the cops, and then we'll be screwed, Hitoshi argued. Oh, I've got it, the octopus said before disappearing and reappearing with a disgruntled Mayahara. Mayahara can help us out with this one. Now, go make him stop thinking what he's thinking. The ginger boy gave his teacher a weird look, but wordlessly obeyed, walking straight up to Poofy and staring him right in the eye. The explosive boy's eyes suddenly glazed over, and then he blinked, looking blankly confused. Huh? Where am I? Who are you? Before he could notice the rest of the commotion around him, Karma ruthlessly punched the boy in the face, knocking him out cold. Karma! Midoriya Nagisa cried. The red double looked up, feigning innocent. What? We couldn't let him realize what had happened. It would completely defeat the purpose of having Marihara erase his memory. Can you really wipe people's brains, Mayahara-kun? Kanzaki asked. Hitoshi peeked up, very intrigued. Not entirely, the boy answered. I can just make them forget their immediate thoughts when I look at them in the eye. It can't really go that deep. It's called thought blocking. Hitoshi snorted, at the almost inappropriate name. Even Midoriya was a little red. That's a very ironic name for someone like you, the green-haired boy mumbled. Koro-sensei nodded. He tried to use it on me to make me disoriented so he could kill me. Almost worked, too. And by almost, I mean not even close, but terrific effort. As they all sighed exasperatedly, the sirens started getting louder, making everyone flinch. We should really get out of here before it's too late, Nagisa encouraged, and everyone nodded, not needing to be told twice. They ran out of an alley, careful to avoid any police cars, and they made their escape. But before they left, they made sure to place Poofy unsuspiciously in the alley with the bottle next to him and a forged note from All Might, claiming that he'd saved the day, but was very busy and didn't have the time to stick around. All in all, it was a pretty average day for the class of assassins in training. The rest of the trip went as expected. That is to say, the sniper attempts failed miserably, and there was no more childhood bullies from Midori's past. His name was Bakugo Katsuya. His name is Bakugo Katsuki, the green haired boy had explained later when it was just the two of them. We were best friends when we were little, but it all changed when he discovered I was quirkless, or surprise villain attacks, for the remainder of the trip. They actually got to take the vacation they very much needed. Hitoshi reclined in his seat in the lounge, content to just relax for the next few hours. Next to him, the rest of the group, sans Karma, who had since disappeared, probably to do some sort of devilish mischief, had formed a circle around Kansaki as she showed them all up in a hero's battle duel game. You're so good at this. You're so good at this, Kanzaki. Does your quirk give you an innate ability at video games too? Midori asked curiously. The girl grinned lightly, her focus all zoned in on the game as she talked. Not exactly. It doesn't directly make me a better player, but I found that being able to bring characters to life in front of me and interact with them has really helped me understand their true potential, she explained, just as the character All Might knocked the computer's Endeavor out of the ring. It's interesting though. I used to be a crazy huge fan of Endeavor until I met his video game character. He was more arrogant and cruel than most of the A class kids. That's interesting. I wonder how accurate your hologrammed personalities are to the real thing, Midoriya mumbled to himself as he produced one of his famous notebooks, seemingly out of the air, and began scribbling in it. Hitoshi smirked at his best friend's antics. What a dork. Later that night, as the Boy Scout gathered in their dorm, they had at some point formed a circle and were discussing which girls they thought were the cutest. Hitoshi, upon hearing the gossip, instinctively pulled out his phone and began gathering himself with pictures of kittens. Hey Midoriya, what girl? Hey Midoriya, which class in our class do you like the most? Isogai suddenly asked, and Hitoshi couldn't help but glance up, intrigued by what the green-haired boy might answer. The boy had flushed a bright red that clashed sharply with his green features. Well, I mean, Okano's quirk is super cool, but Okuda is super smart and really nice when you get to talk her. Kataoka is super cool and independent, while Kanzaki is so thoughtful. Kirahashi is really cute and sweet too, and Hara always makes us such yummy treats. And Nakamura is easy to talk to, and so is Yada. Oh, did I mention that Kanzaki is also very pretty, and so is Hayami when she's not glaring at you? And Fua, the boy continued to ramble on and on about every girl in their class, even getting back and repeating a couple. Hitoshi bit his lip to keep from bursting out laughing, and Isogai and then his buddy sweat dropped. I'm sorry we even asked, murmured Mimura. Hitoshi couldn't hold back a snort, mistakenly bringing attention to himself. What about you, Hitoshi? Any girl catch your eye? Meihara asked. The brainwasher pursed his lips in a very firm line. I mean, I haven't really talked to any of them. Okuda and Kanzaki were in my group today, but we spent more time fighting that dumb sludge monster than actually interacting, so I can't really say any of them have caught my eye yet, no, he answered truthfully. Though apparently it was not the reply the others were anticipating. Isogai shook his head. I guess we shouldn't be so surprised. Besides, Karasuma and you're the only boy who can resist Bitch Sensei, and unlike Karasuma, it's not because you can't smell things, if your ability to sniff out coffee from a mile away is anything to go by. The boys erupted into a fit of giggles, all remembering the manhunt the haired boy went on when he smelt an espresso Butch Sensei bought in one day. The blonde the blonde bombshell had been thoroughly scared for her life. Suddenly, the room's door slid open, revealing a freshly showered Karma, and the laughter only intensified. The devilish boy frowned, clearly confused. Something wrong? He asked. Okajima was practically crying. What's up with your hair, dude? Karma normally solid. Karma's normally solid red hair had transformed and was doing some odd red to white ombre. Someone would have added so if someone would have added a white puffball to the top, it would have looked like he was wearing a goddamn Santa hat. It was freaking hilarious. Itoshi couldn't remember the last time he laughed so hard, but he couldn't help but take pictures, not even fearing his own safety. Kuro Sensei suddenly appeared beside him, coaching him on what angles to take photos. A perplexed Karma marched over and snatched the phone out of his hand. The look of horror that came over his face was hysterical. What the hell is what the hell was in that shampoo?" he asked furiously. Koro-sensei scratched the back of his head guiltily. "It would appear you accidentally used my super intense Koropu, capable of watching anything and everything out of hair, apparently including color. I'll have to add that to the list of possible side effects before I put it out on the market," the octopus explained. Karma gritted his teeth, a knife materializing out of nowhere, and began attacking the teacher mercilessly. "Wait a minute, Koro-sensei. Why do you have a shampoo brand? You don't even have hair." "That doesn't mean I can't implement my clean agenda on the rest of the world," the teacher said, causing the front of the purple-haired boy to pausing in front of the purple-haired boy to answer. Karma took that moment to throw his knife at the teacher's head, narrowly missing it. Koro-sensei squealed, "Okay, Karma, you win. I'm sorry I turned your hair white. I promise I'll fix it." There was a wild blur, and then suddenly Karma's hair was wrapped entirely in foil. "That should do the trick. Your hair should be back to its demonically red color in no time." Midoriya blinked owlishly. "You can dye hair too? How'd you learn so much about hair care, sir?" "It's just a little secret of mine," the teacher replied, grinning impishly. "Now, what's this I hear about girls?" So the middle school wasn't exactly what Hitoshi had been planning for it to be. Being an E class kind of made that impossible, and his grades were getting better and better, and he couldn't exactly fly under the radar anymore. He had opened up to using his quirk for at least one person and was actively planning on showing it to his teacher and classmates eventually, and most of all, he had friends. So what if being in the N class was a blip on his resume for UA? Here he was learning how to fight and kill his teacher, the number one villain. Here he was getting the skills he needed to succeed in his dream future. He may have been a nobody yesterday and an assassin today, but tomorrow he was going to be a hero. Yay, good ending. So, anyways, that was chapter 2. I had fun reading it with you guys. And I will see you some other time. The voices, they suck. I know. And I repeat a lot of them for different characters and I forget them sometimes. But there's so many characters in this cast. Okay, there's a lot and I'm trying, but it's not perfect. Midoriya's voice, I keep getting mixed up. I have no idea what I used for in the first time. And Hitoshi's is a little bit more consistent, but not much. But anyways, oh yeah, and Koro Sensei is just off the charts inconsistent. I've never, ever, ever used the same voice twice for him. Anyways, I will see you guys in the next video, and I hope you have an amazing night. Bye.